I find today's fairy tales problematic. As Kira Casman said, Cinderella never asked for a prince. She asked for a knight of a dress. So we need to change the standards. And I have an idea. Now that I have your attention, allow me to explain. My issue is with today's folk tales. I know what you're thinking. What could possibly be too problematic about these cute little fairy tales we have spent our entire childhood listening to? Is it the too majestic to be true castles, or the idyllic creations of our storytellers, or the endless representations of unidealistic luck? I mean, yes, but don't get me wrong. As much as I envy the perfect worlds our characters live in as the next person, that's a problem for some other day. Because today's problem, ladies and gentlemen, is something different. I stumbled across this story called The Little Mermaid once, and I remember reading this scene where the grandmother is grooming the youngest princess and she is attaching 8 oysters to her tail. Now, when the mermaid suggests that they actually hurt her, this sagely lady offers a very peculiar advice. Pride must suffer pain, she says, which is a recurring theme in this entire traumatic tale because if you have forgotten, the little mermaid gave up her most cherished talent, her voice, for the man she liked, giving an idea that she should accept that she has to sacrifice something for true love. Oh, she did give up her entire life to be with a stranger, and cherry on top, now not only is she voiceless, but according to the Sea Witch in Hans Christian Andersen's novel, now that she has human legs, every single step that she takes will feel as if she's walking on knives. Every single second of her life. So, the thing that was bothering me and what I considered peculiar was actually being normalized throughout the story. And what I deemed was a problem was being regarded as a virtue. And at that very split second, it struck me. Exactly how many things are normalized in this magical world? And it got me thinking. Why does a happy ending have to be a marriage and nothing but a marriage? Why are all the tales gender binary? That cannot be a coincidence, can it? And why have the tales become a means to promote unfair beauty standards? Because honestly, one look at the Disney princesses and the only distinguishing feature is their fashion sense, and in some cases, their skin color. In fact, Disney has also been accused of facing the same face syndrome where most of their Disney princesses in the past decade look almost alike. So I often wonder, what that predefined certain way in which men and women behave in this magical world? Because it's like a math equation. So when LHS is equal to beautiful, shy, damsel in distress, RHS is equal to woman. LHS is equal to valiant, strong, and showing no sign of emotion whatsoever. You guessed it. RHS is equal to man. Yes, the folktale dictionary has already defined the physical and emotional bounds of men and women no further than what it is. Now, let me back my argument with some very disturbing statistics regarding Grimm's fairy tales. Yes, there are many authors and many people who have collected and authored fairy tales, but we are primarily going to focus and talk about Grimm fairy tales because they comprise of about 200 fairy tales and have few of the most famous bedtime stories of today. But before that, since we are talking fairy tales today, it is only logical for me to share a story with you. Once upon a time lived two brothers, Wilhelm and Jacob Grimm, and driven by nationalism, they used to collect these tales as a reflection of German identity. So, fun fact, the fairy tales originally were pretty dark and not meant for kids. For instance, in the ages old tale of Cinderella, the stepsisters actually cut off their toes and heels to try and fit into the glass slipper, and that's not it. The prince notices they're not the right girls only when a dove tells him that there's blood dripping. And at last, when the prince finds Cinderella, the dove pecks out the stepsisters' eyes, so they end up spending the rest of their lives as blind beggars while Cinderella gets to lounge about in luxury at the princess's castle. Also, in Snow White, the queen who was trying to kill her actually asks for Snow White's liver and lungs to be served for dinner that night. Adding to that, by the end, the wicked queen is punished for trying to kill Snow White. Now, punishment is fine, but it's the method of punishment which is extremely weird. She's made to dance, wearing a pair of red hot iron shoes, until she falls over dead, which is not a very beautiful imagery if you ask me. So, now all of what I just shared couldn't be published for kids due to obvious reasons. So, once these folk tales actually became popular among children, scenes of these sorts were eventually revised. And yes, I might have ruined my childhood while researching for this talk, but at the end of the day, one can only be thankful that the world was blessed with all time favorites like Snow White, Hansel and Gretel, Beauty and the Beast, and the list is just too long for me to keep going on. Alright, so backstory done. It is time for a few grim statistics now. Yeah, I apologize for that, but I just really had to. Anyways, a research was conducted by an associate professor of sociology at Purdue University, an assistant professor of women's studies at Western Illinois University, and a former Purdue graduate student. And I'm going to share a few statistics from that research with you. 158 of 168 Grimm's fairy tales acknowledged physical appearance, and the average reference per story was 13.6. Evil was associated with ugly in 17% of the 168 stories. And almost 210 stories, they end with happily ever after. Yes, there are very few exceptions, like the children who played butcher with each other, but the ending of such stories is a no-brainer. But the problem here is not the happily ever after or the escapist approach, but the fact that there is only one path authors choose to achieve it. And did I mention that approximately 17% of the fairy tales, the common message to girls in that is that they cannot trust each other, which is not a very moral message if you ask me. But these stories were published long ago. We live in 21st century, and it is clearly time to author a new era. At this point in time, this is how I would want my fairy tale to look like. Probably start off with a nice and pleasant Sunday morning and end with a typical gay marriage in a church scene. Definitely defining beauty standards with plus size princesses. We love to see the confidence, don't we? Or even fairy tales with a cultural twist. Indian version of Rapunzel, anyone? Or just maybe, happily ending the story with the girl becoming whatever she wants and not with marriage. Fortunately, it's not just me, and there are people trying hard to get rid of these stereotypes. Parents, for example, tweak their folktales when reciting them to their children. In fact, the number of UK parents who edit fairy tales as they read them out aloud is more than 1 in 4, according to a poll published in 2018. There are even authors, who write such inclusive fairy tales. For example, we have Hansel and Gretel by Rachel Isadora, which is a story set in Africa. There's even a Japanese version of Snow White written by Chloe Perkins or Ever After, a fairy tale supporting homosexuality written by Christina Lee. But these are big yet small steps. The movement does need a greater nudge. And I think I have an idea. Why not create a medium where one can find their favorite authors who write such inclusive fairy tales, or even allowing people to author their own tales? So, this is a little doodle I made, and every drawing in it challenges a set convention. And this is exactly what we should be doing, right? So, a medium which gives the people themselves power to break these stereotypes, I believe, would be the ultimate solution to get rid of these hackneyed storylines. Everyone should be able to see their own reflection in the magical world. It's not just for a certain people with certain traits or certain looks. It's time we throw that fairy tale dictionary off the shelf. It's time you see you in a fairy tale. Thank you.